All right, everyone, Monday the 18th of August, and we're getting ready for the first two-match week of the season. And yeah, things really getting serious for Celtic from this week onwards. Kairat are due in Glasgow any minute, really. And we face them on Wednesday night. Huge game. We'll maybe get the ball rolling on that today. Going to go through some of your comments from Friday's win over Falkirk as well. Some interesting debates, maybe looking at the Kairat game. And also a few bits of news that have happened or haven't happened in recent times. Today's show is sponsored by Practical CBT, who we are delighted to have on board with Celtic AM. They offer short online courses and affordable Zoom coaching sessions, especially designed for men, with up to 33% off for Celtic AM viewers and listeners. Check out the link at the top of the description to get started. I would highly recommend it. So yeah, 4-1 victory over Falkirk on Friday night. Let's just rattle right into your comments and see what you're saying. And yeah, a lot of them centering on the midfield, the likes of Arnie Engels, Rio Hatate, Benji Nigren. We've got Joseph Maxwell. Hatate wasn't missed. The game flowed well as a result of his normally wasteful absence. Time to punt him. I think that's pretty harsh on Rio Hatate, who's probably been one of our best players, kind of tail end of last season and early this season. Where I do kind of agree with you is I did feel that the midfield was a bit slicker on Friday. Part of that, to be honest, might be the fact that Falkirk came and played a hell of a lot more than St Mirren and Aberdeen, who were pretty defensive against us. But yeah, just felt it kind of was, that's the word I'll use, it was a bit slicker. I think Luke McCowan's a big part of that, and I'm not saying Luke McCowan is in Celtic's starting midfield for Wednesday night or anything like that, but I do think he's got an ability alongside Callum McGregor of really moving the ball fast. Maybe something we don't see quite as often from Rio Hatate and Benji Nigren. So yeah, I really like Luke McCowan. I think my main point here is that we have 6 really good midfielders at the club. That is, for all the kind of worries we have about maybe some other areas, the midfield is stacked, as folk would maybe say in America and that. So yeah, I want to see that rotated this season, game to game, keep things fresh, because it did go quite stale at the end of last season. In terms of Wednesday, Sugarman saying Engels should keep the shirt. He looked good last night. Great Badger agreeing, saying Engels should start in Europe. Dead ball situations can be absolutely key. As well as being a good passer and reader of the game, he is our one and only dead ball specialist. He also fits very well on the left of midfield. If we can get him and Nigren working well together with Kalmak behind them, we could have a very effective midfield. So I think 2 out of the 3 positions in midfield are nailed on for Wednesday night. Callum McGregor's obviously going to start, and Rio Hatate is nailed on to start as well. So it's just about who that final place goes to. And I do think, as Scott said on Saturday's reaction, I think there is a debate there to be had. Arnie Engels started 9 of our 10 Champions League games last season, and arguably his best football for Celtic in his debut season came at that higher level when there was just a bit more running involved, a bit more space maybe to go into. And he's quite effective from set pieces at times last season as well. I'm saying that and I can only think of Liam Scales' header against Slovan Bratislava. So I should maybe just research that point a bit more. But I feel like Arnie Engels was quite an important player for us in the Champions League last season. So does Brendan Rodgers go back to that? The only game that Engels didn't start out of our 10 last year in the Champions League was the away game in Zagreb against Dinamo. And the reason he gave for that was that we were going to have a lot of the ball that night, and he felt that Paulo Bernardo, who started ahead of Engels, was just a bit more kind of up to speed with how we work with the ball. It's also worth saying Engels wasn't in great form at that point, but that does maybe lead me to believe that he'll go with Nigren in midfield on Wednesday night with Hatate and McGregor behind him. That's just my hunch. I wouldn't be massively surprised if it's Engels. But I think it's a really good debate to be having someone like Arnie Engels coming in and doing pretty well. He wasn't spectacular against Falkirk, but, offering something. And I think more than anything, looking incredibly keen. Someone in the comments brought up the fact that when Yang crosses the ball for the fourth goal, which was the own goal. Engels looks pretty gutted that the ball didn't go to him. Even after the ball goes into the net and Celtic literally score, Engels kind of bows his head a little bit because he obviously wanted to get on the score sheet himself. So he's very motivated. I think it's a bit of a toss of the coin for Wednesday. I just think Brendan Rodgers will go with Nygren. But great options that we have. And yeah, PK agrees with that as well, saying there's a fight on for that midfield spot. I think Nygren's been good, but so has McCowan. Them fast feet and them dead balls from Engels last night were a bit special. Bernardo is class as well. Our midfield is so strong now. Elsewhere we had Wee Shug. When did we last score a direct free kick? Engels is the closest we've come in ages. Yeah, I was watching that back, that effort in the first half. It's a hell of a strike, that, because he's actually like wide of the 18-yard box. So if that had gone in, it would have been a cracker. I remember this coming up at the end of last season, and there must have been a reason for this coming up. So I was trying to think, did we score a free kick at the end of last season? I don't think we did, but someone might correct me. I did a bit of research at that point, and I think the last direct free kick Celtic scored, direct, so not teed up for anyone, not laid off, I think was Jota in the Bernabeu. Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe we're due one. Arne Engels appears to be the most likely. I just thought his deliveries were excellent, especially for that Dane Murray goal. So, yep, Celtic free kick goals are pretty rare these days now. We don't have Naka anymore. Chris D. Rogers said after the game that KT was flinging in too many crosses, making us predictable. Wasn't hammering him, he was making it clear he wants the attack to be mixed up. Yes, I brought that up after the game. I think that's the reason the comment came in, that I felt we're putting so many crosses into the box, and it felt like very deliberate. It felt like it was instructions from Brendan Rodgers, but it seems like that wasn't the case, and Brendan Rodgers maybe wasn't a huge fan of all of those crosses going in, and there was so many of them. Just talking after the game about Kieran Tierney and Dyson Maeda, Rodgers' comments were, I think they became sometimes a little predictable on that side, where we were constantly crossing it. We want to cross it, of course, but we need to vary it, but that will come. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting just watching that left-hand side over the next kind of coming weeks, just to see if we see a bit more play and a bit less just putting the ball into the box at every opportunity. Kieran Tierney was kind of the main culprit for that. I don't mind it, because arguably if you've got like a better striker getting in the end of things, like Georgios Giakoumakis, for example, then he's potentially coming away with a goal or two on Friday night. But yeah, a bit more playing would be good to see on that side. Can't believe I've just talked down Kieran Tierney, who's like been absolutely outstanding so far. I mean, how good has Kieran Tierney been? I said earlier to John for the Celtic Way Weekly that will be out later today, he's been our best attacker so far this season, and he's a left back. He's incredible. Right, next, Malleus. I'd give Shin a run of games. Ida did nothing against Aberdeen, and Kenny did nothing last night. Pretty sure it's going to be Adam Ida who starts on Wednesday night. Livingston, however, on Saturday, give it to Shin, start him, let's get a proper look at him. I feel like Adam Ida's, had a good opportunity so far this season. Johnny Kenny, maybe more so over pre-season, but Friday night as well, Johnny Kenny's had a good opportunity. Feels like Shin's the one that we're not really seen too much of yet. So I really want to see him start against Livingston on Saturday, and ideally getting a wee goal and just getting his confidence up. Because I like the look of him so far, but still to kind of properly get to see him, I think. Also, Officer Feelgood saying, feels like this is the best fullback combo we've had in a long time. Friday night, under the disco lights, was more enjoyable than I first thought. Engels was impressive and gave the manager a welcome headache for Wednesday. Scales at left back is horrendous. Yeah, I just thought there was like a good edge to the game on Friday night, and I know there were some comments from Alistair Johnson saying the same thing, just with it being like a night game and a cup game, and like I know the crowd was like typically maybe a little bit lower than it would be for like a league game, 43,000 there, but it just felt like quite full watching it on TV. It felt like there was a good atmosphere under the lights. As I say, it being a cup game with that kind of jeopardy there, I think always adds that. So, yeah, it did get me thinking how different even these early rounds of the cups are these days compared to 15 or 20 years ago, when that game against Falkirk would have been played on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. The crowd would have been 20, 25,000 potentially. The top tier may have been shut like it was back in the Gordon Strachan days. So it's just kind of weird how even these early rounds of the cups these days seem to get pretty big crowds, and they seem to really matter. Like I really look forward to these games. I don't know if it is just because you kind of feel that if something goes wrong, then you're out the cup and the treble dream's over. It gives it a real meaningful feel. But I've said it a few times. I really enjoyed what Falkirk brought to the game. I really enjoyed what Celtic brought to the game. So yeah, more of that, please, this season. And just on the League Cup, so we're obviously into the quarters now. The draw was made on Saturday evening. You will have seen this, but we've got a Glasgow derby against Partick Thistle away from home at Firhill, which I'm kind of happy about. Partick Thistle, the only non-Premiership team left in the tournament, so I guess by that logic, it's potentially the easiest draw we could have got. Obviously, we'd have rathered them at Celtic Park. I think that'll be a fun game, and you'll get a big Celtic support there. The other ties, so Killie St Mirren, one of those two will be at Hampden. Rangers Hibs, I think, could be interesting, even though it's at Ibrox. One of those two will be at Hampden. And yeah, Aberdeen Motherwell, you probably fancy Aberdeen to get through that and get back to Hampden. That'd be interesting playing them there again. I think potentially for like the fourth cup competition in a row would have met Aberdeen at Hampden if that's the way things go. Just in terms of your mental diary, so we've obviously got Kairat, then we've got Livingston, then we've got the return against Kairat, and then Rangers. We then go into the international break. Somehow, yes, we're only 4 games away from the first international break. When we come back from that, we kick off with an away game against Kilmarnock. If we beat Kairat, we'll have our Champions League opener the following midweek. If we lose to Kairat, the Europa League opener won't be until the week after that. It's a little bit strange. And then we have Partick Thistle away in the cup. So even after we come back from the international break, we're going to have some really meaningful fixtures to look forward to. Just one more wee thing from Friday. I did see some stuff about the club apparently erecting the Berlin Wall inside the concourse around the 112, 113 area of the stadium, stopping people moving around the stadium. Now, this is in order to prevent overcrowding and make sure that fans remain in their correct area of the stadium. That is the club's wording, according to an email that they sent out on Friday. A pretty easy to miss email as well that didn't mention the new big barrier that they were putting up that arguably causes more issues with overcrowding than it solves. But yeah, this is basically to do with like the standing section. I think there's a bit of an issue with people who don't have tickets finding a way into the standing section. Clearly there's some sort of safety issue there, but again, I would argue what they're doing here isn't particularly safe. But yeah, I saw a number of people saying online that the new wall and the checks changed their experience of the game at Celtic Park on Friday, whether that was like having to go to different like food kiosks or different toilets, making it difficult in terms of that, or even I saw a number of people saying that they like to kind of walk around the concourse to different parts of the ground and maybe meet people and chat to them before the game or at half time, and I've done this for years and now they're no longer able to do it. So yeah, it seems like a bit of an issue, and clearly a lot of complaints from Celtic fans after Friday's game, directed to the SLO John Paul Taylor, who's a stand-up guy and deals with all of this feedback, and he posted an X to say that he'll share all of the feedback from Friday with the club ahead of Wednesday night. The other thing here was the North Curve tweeting to say, the only solution for migration and overcrowding is to meet the demand to stand at matches. In July 2024, the club surveyed supporters and received a clear majority mandate to do this. The entire stadium needs a refresh. A goal end standing section should be part of this. I'm not going into the whole Celtic end debate because it just means that people fall out and there's enough division in terms of Celtic support with transfers and stuff at the moment. I think what I would say is, like, at the very least, the standing section should be increased, because I think the demand is greater than the supply at the moment. So I'd hope that's something the club would look at, but clearly there's some sort of logistical issue with that. The other thing I saw, and yeah, I don't know why I'm kind of half smirking there, because it's not particularly funny if this was your seat, but I did see ex-user Lenny sharing images sent to him by a mate of his in the main stand just behind the dugouts. Now, last season, not an ideal view, but you can still see the pitch. Compared to this season, with the newly installed taller dugouts now blocking the view. And yeah, I cannot explain how raging I would be if that was me turning up for the new season and seeing that had happened. You wonder what is going on there in terms of the new dugouts being so much taller and blocking the view of people and I guess a number of rows behind them. A shambles. Transfer stuff, and this won't take long. Have you noticed the transfer sections of the videos are just getting shorter and shorter as we go through, because there is really not a great deal happening. We've still got ages to go though. I mean, 2 full weeks. 2 weeks today, the transfer window shuts and we need a number of players in. I can feel myself on the verge of a rant. Don't worry, I'm not going there today. I think we'll get some business done. Starting to doubt we'll get all of the business we want done. It's a total shambles, but a bit like Brendan Rodgers, I feel like I've said that about a million times, so I don't need to do that anymore. The one thing that I saw yesterday was Seltzer here reporting that we've reached out to Feyenoord winger Calvin Stengs, his representatives in the past week, to sound out interest and explore the possibility of a move. However, Seltzer here say no direct contact is taking place between Celtic and Feyenoord at this point. Seems like a pretty ambitious move. I know he's had some injury problems, but like, he's a Netherlands international. He's played for some big clubs, Netherlands, France, elsewhere. Played against us a couple of years ago. He is a winger. It's the kind of deal I think we'd love to see Celtic go for, even though he has had some injury troubles in recent times. But yeah, I'm not saying there's nothing to this. Probably has something, but I'd be quite surprised if Celtic get a deal like this done. It's hardly a time to feel too positive about Celtic in the window. But yeah, nothing else really to report transfer-wise. We're clearly just hoping we can get through this Kairat tie and then strengthen right at the end of the window. So yeah, we're rapidly approaching Wednesday night, and as I said at the top of the show, it's going to be kind of the start of things getting serious. I mean, it's like, I don't think it's a cliche really to say they're the most important games of our entire season, just in terms of like obviously the financial aspect. The finances have never kind of meant as much to me as actually Celtic getting into the Champions League and playing against all of these top teams, and just the kind of excitement and drive it kind of gives to the whole season. Like, these are vital matches, and Kairat are, I think, a fairly good draw for Celtic. Take nothing for granted here. It's like an interesting tie. It always is when you play these Kazakh teams, and it feels like home advantage is particularly important, and it's going to be very difficult for us to go over there and get a result. But equally, as Alistair Johnson says, you're really looking to maximise all of the things that are in our favour at Celtic Park on Wednesday night. So yeah, it's difficult to find out too much about Kairat. I'll try and do that as we go on this week. But I do know that they lost at the weekend, that it was a pretty bad loss. They were at home to Yeleme, who are, I think, 5th in the Kazakh league. So a decent enough team. But they were 2-0 up at home, and they lost that match 3-2. So it was a bit of a shocker. Their manager did make a few changes, not loads of changes, I think 3 or 4 changes. A few of their top players being rested. Satpayev, for example, being rested. He came on in the second half. But yeah, that can't be great in terms of confidence going into Celtic Park. And yeah, the other thing, like, they've done a hell of a lot of travelling. Kairat, they've been to Slovenia, Finland, Slovakia and back already in the Champions League. They were just in Bratislava last midweek for that second leg. I mean, that's not next door to Almaty. That's a 12-hour round trip, basically. And they only would have got back maybe on Thursday. And now they're travelling away back to Glasgow. So they've done a hell of a lot of travelling. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to really go for them on Wednesday. I think it's a good match for us. I know we've got issues with our attacking options, and you'd feel a hell of a lot better if we did have signings already in. But I still think, we should be good to go on Wednesday night. And, the atmosphere is going to be big. I'm not sure how often Kairat will have experienced an atmosphere like that. I was looking back at teams they've played in like the last 3 or 4 years, and the only obvious one that I think compared was Crvena Zvezda in Serbia back in like 2021, and they lost that 5-0. I'm even thinking now, looking at that, would that have been like a COVID game potentially? So they maybe didn't even have, the full crowd in for that one. So I think it's going to be a pressurised game for Celtic, but I do think this Celtic team really thrive on the pressure, and we saw that at times last season. The Slovan Bratislava game really leaps out to me as a similar match to Wednesday night, and I think if we come away with a 5-1 win, we'll be absolutely delighted. As I say, it's only Monday, so we can build ahead a bit more to this game as we go. But yeah, it's a biggie, and we're getting started. Celtic women got started yesterday as well. It was their SWPL opener away to Hearts, and they won it 2-1. First half goals from Morgan Cross and Natalie Ross, which is the first Ryman Celtic goal scoring duo ever, I'm pretty sure, but I haven't double checked that. They gave us a 2-0 lead at half time. Hearts pulled one back, but it was a winning start for Elena Sidiku's team. So good stuff. Hopefully not the last Celtic victory we see this week moving forward. I'll leave it there for now, everyone. I'll chat to you tomorrow.